Hello. My case is about a Hartsville, South Carolina student athlete, high school football player that died um, during a football game. His family is suing the South Carolina Board of Education, the Hartsville Board of Education, the rescue squad, as well as the high school, the coaching staff, and the athletic trainer. That's all they were trying to name in this suit. They're suing mainly for wrongful death. They are also suing for negligent infliction of emotional distress, unfair and deceptive practices, as well as a breach of contract from a third party beneficiary. So let's start at the beginning to kind of make sense of this. What initially happened was this student athlete, a large, over 200-pound athlete, lineman, football player, was given a physical. He was found to have high blood pressure, which was 157/74, which, as we know, is pretty significant. The parents are saying that the physical form had his blood pressure circled, but the physician had never stated or talked to him or his parents about the high blood pressure situation. The athlete also stated and mentioned feeling faint during times of physical distress. And in the middle of the summer, after his physical, he had fainted. And I was trying to find more information about this, but I believe it was on school property. I'm not sure if the athletic trainer was aware of this, if the coaches were aware of it, but the parents say nothing was done to help this or find out what was wrong, basically. After this, during football season, the athlete had talked to his coach, or the coach talked to the athlete, and the coach mentioned to stay hydrated and kind of take it easy. General coaching, it's okay, you'll feel better soon, which isn't wrong. So then, during a football game in October, the athlete collapsed after a kickoff. The athletic trainer ran over, revived him, and EMS was called. EMS should have been on scene. The parents were trying to sue the rescue squad for not being on scene, and it was mentioned that the EMS rescue squad team is actually being paid $1,000 per home game to be at. So they should have been there. Why they weren't, we're not sure. But the rescue squad had to be called. After the athlete was revived, the athletic trainer, I guess, tried to move him off the field. And then he collapsed again. And that's it for the final time he collapsed. The parents are suing the rescue squad again. They came within the time of being called and everything. The lawsuit stated that the athletic trainer should be aware of the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which was the athlete's cause of death. And this is more prone to happen in African American athletes who are high blood pressure, overweight. So yes, they should have been aware of that. As of yet, they haven't found, or they haven't made a settlement or anything. It hasn't gone to court or anything yet. This is only a couple years ago, so I know that takes a while to process everything. EMS, the rescue squad, did release a statement saying that because of legal reasons, in the state of South Carolina, they can't be sued and named in this. I'm not really sure what that law says, but basically the parents aren't going to get their name in that, even though they should have been there. So I would say, even though there's no settlement, I don't think the parents should be I'm going to debate why the parents are doing this. And while I do have some biases, and yes, those are going to come out, initially, as we talked about in class, we can talk about how the parents want justice for their child dying. They want reimbursement somehow, and they want some sort of comfort. And while that makes complete sense, and while, yes, they should have some sort of closure, but I don't think it was all one person's fault, per se. I mean, clearly, this is something bad that happened. This was something wrong, excuse me, that shouldn't have happened. But because this happened, they're seeking some sort of legal closure, I guess you would say. The athletic trainer, there was no negligence. There was, I guess you could say he should have been aware of the situation going on with that athlete, but we don't know if it was a full-time athletic trainer, if he knew that athlete personally, or not personally, but if he was with that athlete all the time. I mean, there are part-time athletic trainers that just come to games. So, because I don't know the job title or the job situation that this athletic trainer was in, I don't see him as doing anything wrong. He revived this athlete. He waited for the rescue squad. He did everything that they could have to save this person, to save this athlete. And while, yes, there were signs and symptoms early on about this, there wasn't anything definitive to say, oh, he's got a heart condition. Maybe we should take him to the cardiologist. And I think the person that's biggest at fault would be the physician that did the physical. Because of the high blood pressure, he should have mentioned it. He should have said something, say, hey, maybe go to your primary care, get this checked out. However, we don't know if that was his primary care. We don't know where he got this physical done. I think that knowing how physicals go, they're fast, they're trying to get everyone done. Maybe this physician talked to the athlete and decided, after listening to his heart and listening to the athlete talk, maybe he decided that his high blood pressure wasn't as big of a deal. Well, he did take some beneficence into this. He weighed the benefits versus the risks, I'm sure. He's a physician. He knows the risks of high blood pressure. While the cost was fine in the end, not worth it at all. But it's not like the physician could completely definitively say this athlete has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, because you don't know until you get further testing done. I do think that the parents should have, after finding out he had a fainting episode and that he was dizzy and not feeling well after physical activity, if they knew this all along and they didn't get that checked out, I hate to say it, but they're partially at fault too. And while that can be truly upsetting and frustrating for a parent, you can't say that this is the school's fault because it was an underlying condition. He didn't just develop hypertrophic cardiomyopathy that night, and that's why they're suing the athletic trainer, because it was like a femoral neck fracture or something and he lost his leg. So I think that the parents could have done things to prevent this. This case is frustrating, and yes, my own bias has come out clearly. But as I said, as a healthcare provider, I truly believe that there's no one person at fault here. And we don't know if they took a family history of heart problems, which we know is very important nowadays. This was 3 years ago, so that was kind of foggy when it came to that. There is some temperance in this. I mean, the parents want comfort. They want someone to blame. They want someone to say, this is the reason my child's not here, and this is why. And point fingers at people, but that's not what it needs to be about, and it's not going to bring their child back. So I think overall this case is kind of crazy, and kind of weird, but overall, I think that it's not just one person's fault. And I think that the parents could have had something to do in helping this athlete, maybe pulling him out of activity, but they didn't. So, while this is a sad case, I think that the courts will see this as, I hope they see it as I see it, of course, but I don't think it was anyone's fault.